Okay, so the topic of this sitting is spiritual resonance and receptivity to transmission. So now I'm going to just read a little bit what I wrote here. The title of this essay is called Transmission and Resting in the Wholeness of Radiant Divine Being. You might close your eyes for this and just take it in kind of like a recitation and just let you feel it. And then I'll talk a little bit and we'll open for questions. Spiritual transmission is an invitation to rest in the wholeness of radiant divine being. Transmission is human being to human being communion in the one being, the one divine self that we already are. I would recommend thinking of spiritual transmission as more of a resonant field rather than an energy beam sent from one person to another. An amplified, resonant field of being. Transmission is activation and initiation power. Transmission is the intensification of the paradoxical whole spectrum or totality of divine being, the radiant divine self. There is the magic of spiritual transmission that is similar to the magic of whole unconditional love. Transmission happens in a context of relationship. In simple terms, there is the transmitter and the receptive receiver. The receptivity or hunger of the receiver is what activates or evokes the fuller intensity of the transmission. That which we already are is what is being transmitted. That's why potent transmission touches our hearts and moves our being and feels deeply familiar. Being is being transmitted to being. Transmission is a catalytic fertilizer, an accelerator of our unique spiritual flowering for the realization of the whole spectrum of being that we are. Transmission is a form of magnified grace. We awaken through grace. Whole being realization is not so much an awakening into some exalted state, as it is more of a remembering of who we already are and who we really are. One wholeness of total being, the wholeness of the Supreme Heart. Paradoxically, the divine self is simultaneously both a diverse individuated multiplicity and a primordial oneness, an ultimate paradox of the inherent marriage of the relative and the absolute. Thus, we each and all are both matter and spirit, localized and transcendental, human and divine simultaneously. Transmission is a living communication of this ultimate reality through resonance, osmosis, and catalytic immersion. It's a bit like plugging into a fire hydrant that is pumping out intensified whole being juice. A human being, a human and divine animal is communicating to a fellow human and divine animal through the medium of awakened conscious love. We are each and all a simultaneous, both and sandwich of the big transcendental self and the small transcendental self. Transmission resonates through our being and intensifies the ultimate reality of the seamless, total, effulgent, the seamless, effulgent totality of the self. There's only one divine self, simultaneously unmanifested and manifested. We are that, and that is this. Okay, so that's just some excerpts. There's more there, and it'll be on the website. So transmission is a natural, everyone has transmission. It's just the natural energetic field that we resonate in and we put out. To be sensitized to it, there needs to be, let's say, receptivity and resonance on the part of the receiver. We have a term, an old term in from Waking Down called the rot. So that allows one to be receptive, to feel more deeply and just more naturally be with what is and feel or be in the paradox of both being infinite and finite. There is when that's not yet clarified about their paradox called simultaneity, that each of us is being big B being and small b being this human being where it's a tight squeeze and we have the whole spectrum of highs and lows of feeling as a human being. It's that sensitivity and rawness that happens as we deepen in the rot is not pleasant for most people. So it takes a hunger to explore and investigate this paradoxical nature of divine being. Transmission is like a templating. So when someone has realized and has more stable access to resting in and as the paradox of being both human and divine, both local and transcendental, being both finite and infinite, then as human being to human being, that resonant field helps magnify that which we already are. It's not going somewhere else to some exalted state. We're just being sensitized to abide, feel this paradox in the living moment of being both human and divine, the relative, local, human animal, and the transcendental unified field in which we're arising that are married together. This is the great paradox at the core of existence and at the core of each person, each whole each human being. So with that, I think I talked a lot last time, so we have about 5 minutes. So I just want to open it up to questions that you may have about transmission. So let's open it up for questions so I could focus on what you might need further clarification on. So the short answer to that is in doing gazing and transmission, basically I'm relaxing into what is and being with the body mind as it is, and opening, feeling, letting attention soften, and I'm resting into the paradox of simultaneity of both being the divine, the human local animal van with all his neuroses and like that, whatever's coming up in the moment, and opening to the unified field, being more devotional. The unified field is divine and sacred, and letting myself just even melt into that, and entering that paradoxical seamless unity, and just relaxing and being moment to moment with this, in the living moment, resting in this, abiding in this moment, abiding in this moment, abiding in this moment. So it's not trying to maintain a state. That's what I mean, like not going into some high, exalted, sublime state and making it stay there. Okay, stay there, stay there. Each moment is living and unfolding. So that's the relaxation. So realization is not a state, it's more a condition and a recognition in the living moment. You do have the exalted, or let's say expansive experience that can happen in transmission depending on your own sensitivity, and the transmission of the realizer teacher. There are some teachers, they don't have the Shakti as part of their transmission, the divine energy, or they may not have as much of the divine love and bliss. It may be more consciousness oriented, and so it might be a little drier. There are different flavors of transmission and different levels of realization. You'll get different transmissions. So not all spiritual transmissions are the same. But the point I was making there, it's not some state that you go into and try to stay there. Though, this opening that you felt during the transmission here, that will, intensify, magnify, and at some point it'll diminish and then may come in its own waves. So that is what goes, what's changeable phenomena can then change and recede. So then you just go with what is there in the moment at that time. Does that sufficiently answer your question at this point? Okay. So maybe in the sharing, if you'd like, you can share some of what you experienced during the meditation and gazing. So now we'll finish with the Dharma talk, keeping it to 15 minutes. And then we'll go into make sure we have enough time for our sharing and question and answer and discussion time.